Allahu, Allahu, Allahu. Truly He is the one, He has no father or son. Truly He is the one, He has no father or son. Everything in creation was by Him begun. Everything in creation was by Him begun. With His infinite power, anything could be done. With His infinite power, anything could be done. Ask Allah for His pardon. Ask Allah for His pardon.
My brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I do apologize on behalf of Air Nigeria for having kept me so long in Accra without coming. They had assured us that we'll be on time, but as you know too well, it happens. Now, I do appreciate also that you have been, in the last 2 hours, listening to a lot of the things I will have said. So I will try to summarize, because having come late, I don't want to give you and tax your patience. The topic is demanding accountability from our leaders. And I wanted to put this topic in 3 different sections. First, I think it's important as Muslims, we try to appreciate what Islam says about the demand for accountability, so that we can start from our own position. And then we come to the reality of today. How do we, in the context of today, demand that accountability? That would be the second section. And the last section is to look at the future. What is going to be the future of our politics? How can we make improvement in the quality of politics so that the demand for accountability would be less taxing and would be much more efficiently and prudently done? Now, with regard to the position of Islam, Islam starts with leadership itself. Leadership in Islam is a responsibility. It's not a kind of, it's not fun. It's not something actually you rush into like we do today. Elect me, I'll do this for you. This is not the Islamic system. A lot of what people say, what politicians say, is not always true. And people don't, and with very good reasons, trust politicians. And this is why I sometimes try to draw a line. When people call some of us politicians, I say, no, there are politicians and there are people in politics. I am in politics. I don't doubt that. But I don't want to be classified as a politician. Because a politician comes with a lot of baggage and a lot of assumptions. And until we clean up the politics, I don't think it would be fair to call some of us politicians. But that's a matter of definition. I don't want to get into the detail, but I think it's an important point to be made. I think it's very clear that from the Quran and from the Hadith, the position of a leader in Islam automatically carries responsibility with it. And in fact, leadership in Islam is an extension of the work of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. Amr bil Ma'ruf, as you know too well, is the commanding of that which is right and good. And Nahy anil Munkar is the forbidding, is the stopping, is the frustration of doing those things that are wrong, which include corruption, which includes oppression, which includes tyranny, which includes rigging in elections, which includes all the bad things that we know. Now I want there are so many ayahs, and because we don't have time, but there is a key ayah in Surah An-Nisa, and it is significant. And I want you to do this take it as a footnote, but work on it. Most of the ayats that are very strong on leadership, on jihad, on so many other things, were actually placed in Surah An-Nisa, the chapter on women. And I find that quite significant, but this is not the topic that we are. But it's something that I think sends a message. This ayah that you know, I'm sure you are very aware, but it's very key. When Allah says, مَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ الَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا أَخْرِجْنَا مِنْ هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةِ الظَّالِمِ أَهْلُهَا وَاجْعَلْ لَنَا مِنْ لَدُنكَ وَلِيًّا وَاجْعَلْ لَنَا مِنْ لَدُنكَ نَصِيرًا. What this ayah is very quickly saying is that Allah is actually taking us to task. Ma lakum, what is wrong with you? What kind of people are you? La tuqatiluna fi sabilillah, you do not struggle in the name of Allah. When you know, when you are aware, when you can see المستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان الذين يقولون ربنا أخرجنا من هذه القرية الظالمة أهلها. When you are aware that there are men, there are women, there are children that are being oppressed, that are being denied their rights, that are being made to suffer, and they are raising their hands up in prayer, asking Allah to liberate us from this oppression and to put us in the hands of people from you who will make things easy for us. This is a call for Muslims to get in a position of leadership. Why? To stop oppression, to stop tyranny, to stop rigging, to stop corruption, to stop all those things, as a result of which people now go to hospital, they have no money to pay for their drugs. Now cannot find good school for their children. They cannot find jobs even as their children have graduated. They cannot find food to eat. They cannot find this. While the actual state itself has enough resources to provide for these poor people. And they are not asking for cars to ride. They are not asking for mansions to stay in. They are not asking for 3-course meals served in Hilton or this. They are looking for the most basic of things. A roof over their head. Food on the table. If they are sick, they want to get medicine from the hospital. And you have enough resources to provide this. Why are you staying behind? Why are you not doing the struggle? This is the concept of leadership. People who aspire to be leaders among Muslims must aspire to answer this particular call. And this is why the hadith of the Prophet, which you know too well, says, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. All of you are like the shepherd. And it's very interesting, this example of the shepherd, because the shepherd, I don't know how many of you here have reared cattle. Some of us who are Fulanis, it comes natural. Now, if you don't have to be a Fulani to understand this, so don't worry. What you need to do is look at the life of a shepherd. Somebody who tenders flock. It could be cattle, it could be sheep, it could be goat, it could be anything. He gets out early in the morning. He leads his flock to where they can graze and get water. Now, if he goes in the morning with the cattle or whatever flock of animals, and he gets a very nice food to eat, he got water to drink, and he became full, but his own flock have not found grace, have not found water to drink, he will be the most unhappy person on earth, even as he has had his food. But if he goes out, he found green grass for his cattle to. He found water for them to drink. And they all came back happy. And you'll see the cattle coming back home really happy. You can see it, you can read it. Even if he did not take any drink, even if he did not have his lunch, even if he did not, he will still be the happiest person on earth. That is the reason why that word ra'i is used in this hadith. Leadership is about getting your people satisfied, not about getting yourself satisfied. And the hadith says, all of you are like shepherds. You are, or you carry the responsibility of the flock you look after. And you will be asked about that responsibility. وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٍ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. And the hadith continues to give the detail of a man in his house, a woman in her house, everybody in his own responsibility. I don't want to get into the details because we don't have time, but I think the key thing to understand is that this leadership is a question of accountability. Accountability to the people you are appointed Ra'i over, and accountability ultimately to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who will ask you how you really rendered that particular responsibility. Now, there are books that the ulama have developed, and you must have come across this hadith of Sayyidina Ali, who met Sayyidina Umar riding a camel in a hurry. And he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, what is all this thing about you riding a camel in a hurry? He said, Ya Abu al-Hasan, this is how he referred to Ali bin Abi Talib. Have you forgotten, as Amir al-Mu'mineen, even as I'm here in Medina, if there is an animal on the bank of Euphrates, which is the borders of the Muslim empire at that time, which is lost, I, as Amir al-Mu'mineen, will be asked by God about that particular animal, away from us as it is, because as Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have a responsibility to provide for that animal, where to pass, where to graze, and the water to drink, even as an animal. That is the weight of responsibility that falls on, and that is the kind of consciousness of that responsibility on leaders, as Islam has clearly demonstrated. Following from this ayat of the Quran and ahadith, there has been a lot of other books written in which qualifications for leadership were mentioned. And some of these books, some of you are already aware, Ahkam al-Sultaniyya of al-Mawardi, Siyasat al-Shar'iyya, Bain al-Ra'i wa al-Ra'ayya of Ibn Taymiyyah. Closer home here, we have books written by Usman like Wathiqat al-Ikhwan, like Bayan Wujub al-Hijra, like Kitab al-Farq. The same with Abdullahi, Diya al-Siyasat, Muhammad Bello also wrote Usul al-Siyasat. There are lots and lots of books that Muslim scholars have written with details of who is supposed to be a leader. What are the qualifications for a leadership? What is the responsibility of the citizens themselves? And that was demonstrated during the time of the Khilafah Rashida. You all remember about those two stories about Sayyidina Umar. Umar is seen as a very firm, and if you like what you might in our current language say, a no-nonsense leader. Everybody feared him. But Muslim citizens had a responsibility. One day he came to lead the prayer like all the Amir al-Mu'mineen were doing of the Friday. And he was about to climb the minbar and to start the khutbah. One of the citizens in the mosque held him by his gown. He said, no, Amir al-Mu'mineen, you can't climb there and give us khutbah until you explain to us how you came about that gown. Because that gown is made up of a cloth which was distributed to everybody after a particular battle as booty. And we know you are share. You are a tall person. That clothes will not be enough to do a garment that will fit you. Now you have a garment like that. Where did you get the other one? Yes, Amir Mu'minin. On a Friday, coming up to the member to give khutbah, they did not allow him to climb to give more until he told them how. And he complied. He came down and said, where is Abdullahi, his son? Abdullahi appeared from somewhere and said, come. Tell them yourself what happened. Abdullahi said, you know my father is very poor. You know that clothes will not be enough. I gave him my own cloth. And it was these 2 clothes that he made his garment on. They said, now you can climb and give us the khutbah. Now, these are the kind of role the Muslim citizens were playing. Even though Umar is the kind of person who you would dare not challenge, but yet was challenged. Another incident, there was a time when Sayyidina Umar from the member gave a directive that the money which was being paid for dowry in marriage was too high, and he was going to slash it. A woman appeared in the same mosque, and she said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have an objection to that particular policy. Who gave you the right to slash on the dowry when Allah and His Prophet did not? And she quoted the reference. And Umar said, Umar is wrong and the woman is right. And he corrected himself. I'm giving few examples to show both the responsibility of the leader and the responsibility of citizens in terms of accountability. I can go on and on and on. I don't think we have the time for it. Let me quickly get to the second part of what I wanted to say. Today, we run a democracy. Now, before people start asking the question, is democracy Islamic or not Islamic, let me make this very clear. There is no one particular kind of democracy. Every country tailors its own democracy. Democracy is nothing but the principle of consultation. You allow the people to decide who are their leaders, through their representative, how you are going to make legislation, how you are going to develop policy. To that extent, democracy falls in the category of what Allah says in the Quran, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, that their affairs, referring to the Muslim community, is decided through consultation among themselves. So, if we have this kind of democracy, if we want to change it, we can change it. We have the room to do so. We have the opportunity to elect our representatives. If we want, we can send all our imams of the mosque to represent us. What stops us from doing that? After all, we do have reverend fathers going to the house to represent their own flock, isn't it? What stops us from sending our imams? No law says you can't, isn't it? So we should not blame anybody. If we don't, it's our choice. If we say the imam of Al-Hausa is going to be the candidate for our representation here, and we send him, who will say no? Right? So he will go and represent us. And if he goes, he said, look, my constituency are largely Muslim, and this is what we want. If he has got other Muslims to support him, fine, he gets his way. If not, at least he has tried. As far as Allah is concerned, he has done what he can do. Like so I want you to understand, let's not get into any debate. It's a very clearly an Islamic provision, which we can make the best of it, or we can, like we do, fold our hand, see things crumbling, and we do nothing, and we sit down in the privacy of our homes, we start complaining. This is a major problem. We are not proactive, we sit down, we like gossiping, we like complaining, we like blaming each other, but not ourselves. You know, everybody is at fault. You know these politicians, you know this. And then if anybody should ask you about, what can I do? No, you can do a lot. So don't escape. Allah is not going to allow you to escape, because He says in another ayah, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها. Now I want you later to study the tafsir of these two ayahs. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها is the one that everybody quotes because it allows you to escape. We avoid لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها. Allah does not place a burden on a soul except commensurate what it has given it. He has given you health. What have you done with it? He has given you education. What have you done with it? He has given you the ability to put this group together. What are you doing as a group? He has given you so many other things you can use. What use have you made of it? And He has told you, you cannot keep quiet. You cannot turn away. You cannot become indifferent when oppression and corruption is taking place in the land. And you see people suffering. You can't be indifferent. In fact, Sayyidina Ali says, and I'm sure you have come across this, to see injustice being perpetrated and walk away, to tiptoe away from it, oh no, this is bad. He said that itself is injustice. Because you are not supposed to walk away. You are supposed to stand and confront it and fight it. So we should not make mistakes about this. Now, the system today, which we operate, allows us to demand accountability through a number of channels. I'll just mention some of them. Now, we have the EFCC Act. Let me ask here, who has read the EFCC Act here? You see? Who has read the ICPC Act? Who has a copy of the EFCC Act? Very good, we have 2-3 hands also. Who has a copy of the ICPC Act? Now you see, this is where we are beginning to fail. If we want to demand accountability, we should read these laws that empower us as citizens to demand accountability. The first chapter of the ICPC Act, after the preliminaries, made it very clear that to run any government at any level, this means whether it is federal government, state government, local government, without a budget is a crime. Who has seen the budget of his own local government? No, fine. Where would you see that? But look. If we are from this local government, we finish Zuhur prayer, we all make a procession to the house of the chairman of the local government. How are you, sir? We are your own electorate, your constituency. All we want from you is one thing. Give us a copy of your budget. He will say, no, I don't have budget, isn't it? We come back here, the lawyers among us will draft a petition, we all sign it, we take it to ICPC, say this man has no budget. He has broken the provision of the ICPC Act. That is demanding accountability. This is a provision we have. Now don't anybody here tell me you can't do this. Now this is a serious business. If you don't have the courage to do as much, you should not have come to this lecture. Because it means you are not serious. God was not joking when He says, مَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ الَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا أَخْرِجْنَا مِنْ هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةِ wrong with you? What kind of people are you? When you know there is corruption in this land. On our way to our house, we will meet God knows how many number of poor people who are poor not on account because they want to be poor, not because they are bad, not because they don't want to work, but because the system has not allowed them to work. The system has denied them their rights. It's our job as Muslims. We will be taken to account to God, in front of God, that we have not done what we are supposed to do, to demand accountability. God is not our friend. He's not the kind of person who jokes with us. He's high above us. You can, through your own parliamentarians, we have parliamentarians representing you in, this is the House of Assembly here, isn't it? Yes. You must have, if all of you come from a particular constituency, you have your own parliamentarian. You have the right to go and ask him, hey, you are going to do budget, right? You are the people approving the budget. You are approving this budget on our behalf, isn't it? So when budgets are presented to the State House of Assembly, to the National Assembly, call your representative. Let him bring a copy of the budget to you. This is what we are supposed to do. I represented my constituency for 4 years in the House of Reps. I happen to have a constituency that is largely illiterate. All the same, anytime there is a budget, I go back to them. This is the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I break it down to them in simple terms that they can understand. What is your opinion? What is your input? How do you want me to represent you on this matter? This is what representatives are supposed to be doing. Not to come and give us money. Not to distribute rice and what is the other one that they give? Not to give soaps. Now, if you collect their rice and and oil, and you eat it, your mouth cannot speak. Yeah. You know, your mouth is shut. Yeah, because he will tell you, how can you speak? I gave you rice to eat. What's your right now to speak? The rice is finished, but you have eaten it. It's finished. So the point is, he can tell you, rice is finished, wait for another election. I'll give you rice again to elect you. Now, that's a very important thing. You lose your right, you lose your independence. So we have got to make sure that we are electing people not on the basis of what they have given us, not on the basis of how connected they are to whoever are the big powers in politics. No, on the basis of their merit, on the basis of the fact that they can represent my own or our own collective interest. And we don't need anything from them other than them to do that particular work. And there's a provision in the Constitution, some of you are aware of it, some of you may not be aware of it, that if you are not happy with your representation, you can recall it back anytime. There is a process of recall in our Constitution, in the Electoral Act. If you want to do that, you collect certain number of signatures, you take it to the National Assembly, say sorry, or to the State House of Assembly, depending on where he is, and say sorry, this man we elected only a few months ago, we're not happy with him, want to recall him. He will be recalled, and you will be asked to elect another person. So the Constitution has made, and the laws have made this provision for you, but you don't use it. I would want to round up this matter so that I can go to the third and final bit. But I have to say that as citizens, we have a responsibility beyond what I've said to set ourselves up as a community-based organization. This particular group is a community-based organization. Whether you get it registered through corporate affairs or through what or not, is a distinct body of people. This group in itself can sit down and write issues